Good evening, Gauntlet community. My name is Robert Warburton. I go by Lashiel on the forums and Second Life and all the other online stuff I do. I recently participated in Tyler Lomanak's Lord Skurlock, and in one of the last episodes of that, he mentioned that the Google Hangouts lower third capability has gone away. And I saw that mentioned again in another Gauntlet video I was just watching. And I thought I'd put together a really quick video to show you guys how to use OBS Studio with Google Hangouts so that you can get your lower third back, as well as a bunch of other nifty features. So I'm recording this now actually in OBS Studio. I'm kind of doing this weird two-computer kind of thing. I'm recording on one computer and actually doing the work on another one, recording that through a remote desktop, because if I try to do the camera and record that as a screen capture, I end up with this weird mirror on mirror on mirror thing. I don't want to do that. But you can do all of this with just one computer. So I'm not doing any fancy green screening or anything like that. The only purpose, or the only thing I want to show you here, is how to set up OBS, how to work with Google or with Google Hangouts, and then how to set up a lower third for your character in this software. So what I want to do, I'll start off with, is setting up my lower third screen first. I use GIMP to do that, and we're going to start off with putting that together now. So let's go ahead and launch GIMP. And it may take a second to open up. And while that's opening, I'll quickly mention that when I'm setting up my screens to do a Google broadcast, whether it be a Hangout or a direct broadcast or whatever, I like to set up my aspect ratio around the 4:3 at the 720p ratio. So if you're going to create your screen and your canvas and all that, you kind of want to do that around 960 by 720 if you want that boxy television sort of aspect ratio, or 16:9 if you want the widescreen aspect ratio, which would be 1280 by 720. I usually record when I'm doing a Hangout at 960 by 720, which gives me a 4:3 aspect ratio. I think it looks really nice, and you don't end up with a lot of clipping in your little when your video is displaying. You do get the side clipping when you're being passive and other people are talking. Feel free to use whatever aspect ratio you like. I have these standard ones in my chart here, and I'll put that in the show notes. So for this exercise, I am going to set up for 960 by 720. So I now have GIMP opened up. So we're going to create a new image, 960 width by 720 tall, and landscape mode. And there is our picture that will become our overlay. My screen's a little small here, so I'm going to scale it in. I'm going to open up my Layers tab and slide that off to the side here. And for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to say select all. We're going to make this kind of simple, because I think most of you know how to use a graphics program to do this. But just for those of you who don't, this is pretty easy. You just delete the background layer so that there's a transparency underneath of it. And then I'm going to use my selection tool, which is this guy right here. And I'm just going to select most of the screen and delete it. Now we have this big transparent area where our image or camera is going to be displaying in the Hangout. And that's all we want. So we're going to select none. And this is where we could put in, let's do a bucket fill, and let's change our color. Let's do a nice deep red and fill in our background. You could have a transparency behind the text or however you want to do it. Let's add in some text. And I'm going to change the color so it's more visible. And let's change our font. make that maybe 40. Oh, wrong key. And that looks good. And we can go ahead and get our selection tool. And we'll move that. Oh, wrong one. Go over text layer. I'm just going to drag that up a little bit. And we'll put a subtitle on here too. And again, we want to select it all and change the color. We'll go a little more of a grayish this time. And that works. And you can monkey about with this all you like. I don't want to spend a lot of time fussing with the graphics. But let's go ahead and add in a little graphic of our character here. So we're just going to grab this guy and drag him in. And we're going to bring him over here and we're going to scale him down. This is my character in Second Life, my alter ego, as they might say. Boom. So now we're going to move him. And actually, let's go ahead and take both these text layers and just drag them over just a little bit. Now, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with GIMP. It's got layer effects. You can basically anything you would do in Photoshop you can do here. It's just a little bit steeper of a learning curve. It's not quite as user-friendly, but it's free. So it's a pretty cool program. Now I've got my graphics set up the way I want. I'm going to take these layers and I'm going to merge them down. So merge down, merge down, merge down. Now it's a single image with a transparency, so we're going to file, export as, and in this case, let's put this on my desktop, and we're going to call this L3, L3 PNG. A PNG file supports transparency, so I use the .png file for this purpose. Export. Export. Boom. Okay, so now we have saved this. I'm just going to minimize this for the time being. Actually, let's pull this out of the way for a second. We don't need that anymore. And where's my lower third? There it is. Put it here where I can find it easier. Okay, so now how do we set this thing up in OBS? First off, where do you get the OBS software? Again, it's freeware, which is great. Love free stuff. It's a very powerful video compositing tool. Does a lot of neat things. You can do chroma key, you can do layers, transitions, all sorts of cool stuff. It supports Windows, Mac, and Linux. However, to use it with Google Hangouts, you need a virtual camera plugin that can be used as the video source for Google Hangouts. And I use CatXfish, which I will post both of these links in the notes. The OBS Virtual Camera 1.2.1, you can download that and install it. However, this virtual camera plugin only supports Windows. If you're a Mac user or a Linux user, you're going to have to find one. I'm sure there's one out there somewhere, but I have not done the research because I don't use either of those platforms. But, you know, any virtual camera plugin for OBS will do. Do your basic Googling, and I'm sure you will find one. The setup will work pretty much identically. So once you have downloaded and installed OBS, and you have downloaded and installed the OBS virtual camera plugin, the next thing you're going to need to do is launch your OBS Studio, which I do simply by typing in OBS and then clicking on the link. And I get this nice screen here. Now, my current screen, if you may notice, has one scene and two video sources set up. And that's because I previously set up a lower third in this app. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one. And we're going to start from scratch. Now, actually, I'm going to go ahead and remove the camera too to just show you how to start from scratch. So select and remove. Now, you've got a blank screen, but you should still be able to hear me. So I have one scene. The first thing I'm going to do is add a video source. So we're going to do a video capture device. We're going to call this webcam and hit OK. and it's going to give me a bunch of different parameters that you might want to fiddle with. I have never had to change any of these values to get this to work right with Hangouts. So just hit OK. And then once it comes onto your stage, you're going to scale it to match your window. You can scale it larger if you want to do any kind of cropping. You know, if I want my head to be really, really big, you know, I can do that. Or if I want to scroll myself down in order to do some cropping and have some other stuff on the screen, I can do that as well. Once you've done that, you want to also go up to your tools, virtual camera. This is the virtual camera plugin we would have just installed, and make sure it's stopped. If it doesn't say start, click the stop button. Stop it. So once the virtual camera is stopped, you go to File, Settings, and here's where we're going to do our video setup. So you go to Video, and this is where we set up our output and our stage resolution. You can have a much bigger or different stage, and that is this area that you see right here in the OBS window. This is your work screen. This is what you have to work with. If you want, for some reason, you can have them be different. I have never done that. I always have them be exactly the same. So my canvas size is 960 by 720. My output, this is what we're going to send to Google Hangouts, is 960 by 720. Hit OK. If you need to rescale your camera at that point, do so. It's very, very easy. Now we're going to add our lower third. So you simply hit plus in your scene source, and this time we want an image. This will be a new image. We're going to call this lower third and hit OK. And it's going to ask me for my source of my image. I'm going to browse to it. It was on my desktop in my lower third folder, which is where? No, there it is. Select, boom, and click OK. Now, my lower third has been added to my screen. If I want to take my webcam and slide myself up so I look a little more appropriate, there we go. That's really all there is to do to set up a lower third. The one thing you remember in this sources stack, whatever is on top is closer to the user's or the video screen. Whatever's below will be covered up by whatever's on top. So if I move my webcam above my lower third, it's now obscuring my lower third. Oh, gotta select the right one. The webcam now obscures the lower third. If I move the lower third above it in the stack, it now stacks on top. So if I move my webcam, oh, still keep grabbing the wrong one. If I move my webcam around, the lower third stays on top. Now, one last little trick that I want to bring up on this is when I play a game for the Gauntlet or whatever else, I often will stack additional images in here. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to put a character profile or a handout as a GM. I can simply click plus, image source or image, handout, and in this case, we're just going to select that character picture because I have it sitting right there. And click OK. And I will then move that to wherever I want it on the screen. Maybe it would put it over here somewhere. And then I will simply click this little eye to hide it. Now, when I'm in my Hangout, if I want to display that, I can simply click that on, and then the users on the other end will see it. If I want it to go away, it goes away. If you want to do something really elaborate like that, you can actually create multiple scenes. That's what this tab over here is. If I want to say handouts, and then I can switch between the scenes and it will completely change the layout. If I want to add my webcam over here and a lower third and maybe put the roll for your party or something on it, then I can switch back and forth very easily. You can actually assign hotkeys to these under the settings. So settings, hotkeys, and you can go into all your scenes and key hotkeys to them so that if you're being a GM and you want to like display the lower third, or you want to display your handouts, or you want to display your role for your party, or a short video or an image or a party map. You can do all of that with this with hotkeys, and it saves you from having to do a lot of hunting and clicking. Now, when I'm actually, I guess the last thing you need to know is how do you make this thing work with Google Hangouts? So what you want to do is, once you've got everything set up the way you want, the stage is right and everything, come back in here into Virtual Camera and start it. Now, these crop offsets, again, if you set your stage up correctly, you don't need to change anything here. But if you wanted to, you could do offsets so that you can shift your thing around and it will appear differently. I usually leave this on auto start as well because I always use it. If I launch OBS, I want the virtual camera running. So now the next step is to launch Hangouts. Okay, take 3. So this is actually a re-recording of this section. In my previous version of this video, I had some issues with my Hangout. I was logged into the wrong account, so it wasn't really letting me connect up to my pre-configured settings. I don't know why, but I've corrected it and now it's working. So I wanted to show the actual integration of the Hangouts virtual camera with Google Hangouts. So you may notice that there are some different scenes laid out here. That's because I'm re-recording this series as a more detailed and hopefully better produced and thought out how-to guide, which with different videos for each step, with a little more detail and all that. But I'll be posting those at some point in the future when I have time to finish recording them all. For now, you have a couple of different scenes that I've created. My primary display with the lower third that we created in the previous section. A role for your party screen where you can display while you're speaking what your party is doing with their roles. A character card screen where we can hide and show a custom move if we want. And then we have a map so we can display where the party is as we're GMing or keepering, as the case may be. I will go over all this in a new version of the series, but it's all using the same techniques I covered in the previous portion of this video. So if you want to get creative, you can knock these things out. If you want to wait for my next videos to show you how to do each one step by step, I'll get it done as soon as I can. In the meantime, I did want to show you how to do this integration with the Google Hangouts. So I have an active Google Hangout session here. I simply come in, once you've logged into Google Hangouts, you've got it started, you come in here. Well, first you want to come to OBS, your virtual camera, and make sure that it's started. In my case, it's already started. So then you come into your Google Hangouts, hit the little gear, and then for the video, you want to choose your OBS camera. And that's it. Leave the microphone and speakers on your headset or whatever you want. Click OK and start the video. Now you're going to see in the Google Hangouts the reverse of your actual OBS output, because that gets mirrored to the end user screen. They're going to see it the right way around. That's why I tend to, well, actually I do tend to watch the Hangout version, because you're going to see everybody else in here when they're speaking. Just don't let it bother you that everything's backwards. That's pretty much it. So I've got in my OBS, I have these 4 scenes hotkeyed, so I can hit 2 and it changes to my dice screen. I can hit 3 and it changes to my character sheet. Of course, if I want to display my little custom move, I have to come over and click. Hit 4, takes us to my map. And again, if I want to move my little token around, I need to come back over to OBS and grab that token and move it, but everybody in Hangouts will see it. This is not a complete replacement for using a virtual tabletop. Those tend to have a lot more features, but if you want something simple that you can use to display a map and show people where something is, and have your viewers actually see it other than just the people in the actual session, it's kind of a neat little thing to do. And then of course hit 1 to come back to our primary screen. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Once you have your OBS running, your scene set up, your virtual camera running, you just connect that to Hangouts, and that is all there is to it. Alright, I'm going to wire this back into the original video and re-upload it. Everybody have a great day. I'll get this remastered, redone video thing done as soon as I possibly can. Talk to you later. Have a good one.